Everyone I've talked to seems to really like The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and so do I. I think it's an amazing film. Even though, half the critics who watched this were probably mesmerized by Adam Scott's beard and were actively rooting for the bad guys the whole time. I don't know why else you would give this a bad review, but I guess I can't really talk because I honestly didn't know why I liked this movie so much. I would just rewatch it without really even thinking about it. So I decided to rewatch it yet again, and this time to try to figure out why this movie has become one of my favorites. Obviously, there'll be spoilers. So after thinking about why I love this movie so much, I realized it's kind of wrapped up in the narrative climax of the film, which is, in my opinion, when Walter finally finds Sean in the mountains. Now, I'd understand if people disagree about this being the high point of the story, because it does leave a lot of things open-ended, like, what was the photo anyway, and is it just lost forever? But from my perspective, that conversation with Sean was the culmination of Walter's story. I mean, even after Walter finds the photo, he tells his coworker that he didn't even look at it before giving it to the magazine. And if Hendrix had, been petty and decided not to print the photo, Walter wouldn't have even known what it was. It was always about the momentary experiences for Walter, and Sean helped him see that. Not to mention that Sean didn't even seem to care all that much that the photo was missing, and of course Walter eventually feels the same way. And this scene should really be anticlimactic, like it's 6 minutes of near silence and the only thing that we learn is that Walter accidentally threw away the photo that he was chasing for the whole movie. And somehow this sparse, deliberate, almost hesitant conversation manages to capture the essence of what this movie is about, experiencing life and being present in its transient moments. It takes a full minute and a half for the actual conversation to even begin, and the entire scene is slow and measured and beautifully paced. Sean begins by saying that he's trying to photograph the elusive snow leopard, so they need to sit very still and be very quiet. The snow leopard doesn't often reveal itself because beautiful things don't ask for attention, according to Sean. And the silence around Walter and Sean is piercing. This movie does a great job at capturing that exact feeling after a heavy snowfall when the snow seems to suck all of the sound right out of the air. And it ends with Sean finally seeing the snow leopard, which was his goal, and instead of taking a photo, he just stops. And he says he likes to be in the moment sometimes, and not get distracted by the camera. He never does take the photo. And this scene encapsulates what makes this movie so good to me. It's not just those big moments, but it's the moments around it, the moments of subtlety and restraint. Beautiful things don't ask for attention. Don't let the camera get in the way. Even the visuals, which are the most emphatic point of the movie, do not go as far as they could. The cinematic scenes that we remember are a small part of the movie. I mean, the whole thing is definitely beautifully shot and composed, and the color selection and color grading are intentional and meticulous. But at the same time, it picks its spots very carefully for the big cinematic shots. There's that scene that everyone talks about where he's skating through the mountains in Iceland, and it could have easily overstayed its welcome, but it doesn't. It could have lasted twice as long, but it clocks in at just 52 seconds. I mean, the training montage in Rocky IV is like 8 minutes long, for God's sake. But this level of restraint is refreshing. And even though a lot of scenes are stylized and quirky, it never fully commits to the stylized aesthetic at the same level of, say, the Grand Budapest Hotel or Jojo Rabbit. And while I love both of those films, there's something that feels more real and organic about Walter Mitty. Even the character evolution and development is subdued. Yes, Walter changes throughout the film, but that change is not nearly as drastic as it could have been, right? The filmmakers could have easily made the change much less subtle, especially considering everything Walter went through in the movie. But they didn't. He's pretty close to the same character at the end as the start, aside from some small changes like a bit more confidence and fewer daydreams. And I like that because I think it reflects how humans really are. While our experiences can change us, especially over time, these changes are not usually as dramatic as the movies often make them seem. And the main romantic storyline also holds back quite a bit. Cheryl doesn't appear a whole lot in the movie, and there's very little emotional drama between her and Walter. And like so many other movies, it does have that one scene that's the crisis point of the main romantic storyline, but it doesn't go nearly as far as it could. Like, given how intense Walter's daydreams and real-life travels are, the filmmakers could have easily fabricated some big dramatic scene for this, but they didn't. Walter just thinks he hears something that was never said, and that's cleared up with an email and a conversation. Kinda relatable, actually. For a major film, this movie shows a lot of self-constraint and still manages to be compelling. And I think that's also what makes this movie so rewatchable. Like, it doesn't overly rely on these tired cliches and tropes in order to create drama or suspense. For example, right from the start, the movie makes no pretense. Life magazine is done. There's no saving it. And in case there was any doubt at all, the actual Life magazine had stopped printing 6 years before this movie came out. So it immediately lowers the stakes from the start, and it removes what could have been used as a source of tension or suspense later on in the movie. Like, they could have just made up some magazine company that Walter had to save by finding Sean, but they didn't. And that's pretty awesome. And halfway through the movie, Walter gets fired, so he's not even trying to save his job anymore. Then at the end, Walter's mother tells him that he needs to complete Sean's work. And then we realize that Sean didn't even really care about that to begin with. And sure, this could have been a movie about saving a beloved publication from the soulless box of the internet, or about helping a legendary photographer complete his life's work. But it wasn't. And I'm really glad that it wasn't. It's a story about a normal person finding his purpose in life, which is reflected in the purpose of life. You know, to see the world, things dangerous to come to see behind walls, to draw closer, to find each other, and to feel. And that's it. Alright, lightening things up a bit, can we talk about the music? Because holy shit, man. I mean, I'm not a coffee drinking Twin Peaks enthusiast with a cool mustache, but even I can appreciate this. I only sort of casually listen to the alt folk genre, I don't even know if that's what it's called, but this is one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. So a lot of the songs in this film were performed by either Jose Gonzalez or his band, Junip, I think that's how you say it. And he's a very popular musician even outside of this movie as well. So maybe that sort of explains why the soundtrack is so good and cohesive. For example, the song on that legendary skateboard scene is such an aesthetically appropriate choice. The driving rhythm has a very indie rock feel to it, but it's layered with an acoustic guitar and these kind of more organic folk sounding vocals, and you know what? I would just say that it's the perfect song for this scene. I mean, try to mute the scene and play another song, it just doesn't work. The whole sequence from the time he heads off to Greenland until the volcanic eruption is the visual and audio high point of the movie to me. The giant anthemic song that drops out immediately once he lands in the middle of nowhere, that part's perfect. Or the Space Oddity scene where Cheryl starts the song and it transitions to David Bowie as Walter jumps into the helicopter. That was amazing, and much like the skateboarding scene, I don't think that there's another song that works as well for this one. I love this soundtrack so much, like sometimes I'll just listen to the album by itself, and that's something I rarely do for movie soundtracks. I think this film has gotten better with time, and so many of the themes resonate even more strongly in our present-day attention economy. Now, it isn't perfect. I don't care for most of the daydream sequences. Also, certain points require me to suspend my disbelief a little too much, like bribing warlords with cake or hiking in the Himalayas after being sedentary for 16 years, or trading a $15 action figure for a $70 longboard, or the two scenes where he's able to track down Sean Penn's exact location in the middle of a photo shoot. But still, I'd easily give this movie an 8 out of 10 for rewatchability, especially considering it's been, 12 years? Anyway, while I try to get over the fact that it's been 12 years since 2013, please like, subscribe, whatever YouTubers say. I don't know how to end it. This is my first video. Okay, bye.